My name's 𝗟𝘂𝗲𝗍𝗶𝗄. Welcome to another video of mine about industrial design. In this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about just doing a quick rendering on top of a pen sketch. The idea is that it was quickly concepted, and I want to put some color and value on the sketch to sort of see what the form is going to look like. I'm starting out by just adding some gray value markers, probably starting with like a 3 or a 4% gray, and I'm just trying to add a little bit of shape or form here with the gray markers. So I'm starting at the bottom and modeling the form the way I want to start to explain the shape, and I'm building up the value of the markers slowly, one color at a time. I'm starting from the lightest to the darkest. The stuff that is closer, i.e. the shape that is closer to us, ended up being darker than the stuff far away. So we're exaggerating environmental or atmospheric perspective here. Adding a little bit of value at the top to help the form wrap over to the back side. My light source is coming from the top left, and what I'm putting in now is the reflection of the body. So it's going to be blue, and I'm just laying in the basic reflection in the side of the body, and then there's a little bit of a pool of reflection at the top of the body, almost reflecting on itself. And here I'm laying in the next value, what would be reflected into that surface, and I'm using this reflection to help me show the form, to exaggerate the curved form in the middle of this speaker. And here again I'm going one value darker to add that reflection off in the distance, and then a little bit at the bottom again to help the form wrap or to show how it wraps. And here I'm using a colored pencil to basically put in a sky color or a blue to show that fading. So if this was outdoors or even in an environment and it was a blue surface, you would get a nice fade or gradation from your reflection on your horizon into the atmosphere or the sky. So we're really just trying to simulate a sky tone here. It's what our eyes are used to. We can understand that as humans. We see this every day in objects all around us. So it's very easy for us as human beings to understand what's going on because we see this every day. So this is a simulation of that to basically trick our eyes or our brain into understanding this form. Now I'm just laying in a value here, a solid value for the control panel. There would be some controls here. It might be a touch screen to either display song information, possibly even for pairing, that sort of thing. I'm also laying in some value on the end. This is going to be a darker value because it's facing away from the light source, which is coming from the left. And again, going in a little darker to get the contrast that I want, so that your eye can read that as a form change. Now I'm going into the ground plane and I'm adding a shadow because I want to start to anchor this object to show that it would be, actually sitting on a surface and not just floating in midair. So put in this ground plane shadow, which I had already sketched out ahead of time at the very beginning. It's very simple and helps anchor the product to the page. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some ellipse guides and we're going to try to sweeten up some of the ellipses here. We're going to basically raise the value of the sketch by using these ellipse guides to just sweeten up or tighten some of the circles that we see. I don't have an ellipse guide here for the very biggest circle, so I have to kind of freehand it and wing it. And you'll see there's a 30 at the top of the page there. So the ellipse that's closest to us that we can see the most of in this sketch is 30 degrees. And as it goes away from us, we actually see more of the circle. And you'll see when I go to the next ellipse guide that I pull out here, it's probably like a 40 or a, something like that, 40 degrees. And then the very last one that we use on the very end is maybe like 45. And so this is in between the 40 and the 30, so I'm using a 35 degree ellipse. It all makes a lot of sense. Here we're back to 30 degrees for this one. And you'll notice the short axis of these ellipses all go to the vanishing point on the left, as they should. And here we're probably using a 45 degree ellipse to lay in that last circle on the left. So I'm adding a little bit of an outline to help define the form. If I had a sweep, I'd probably just pull out a sweep that I have and sweeten up some of those lines. I didn't have a sweep when I was doing this demo. I'm adding a little bit more value into these end cap pieces because I'm really finding that they're a little bit too light. I want them to be a little bit darker, and I want to help define the form a little bit more. So I'm adding a little bit more value back in there with a little bit darker gray to help define that form and get the contrast between the body of the speaker and the end cap cones. Now what I'm doing is actually have a screen here, and I'm doing like a rubbing with a colored pencil to add a little bit of texture to simulate some material that could be the actual production material of these speaker cones to where the sound comes out. I don't like the orientation I have the texture here, so I erase it and I redo it to be in line with the form just a little bit more. Now I'm coming back with a colored pencil again, and I'm just darkening up the highlight or the reflection in the body to have a little bit more contrast against the white to make it pop just a little bit more. I'm using a jelly roll here on the page to really make sure that the white stands out the most. Gouache would probably be the most effective, but I didn't have any gouache available during this demo. Again, just going through in the areas that I feel that it's needed, adding a little bit more contrast and helping define the form. I'm adding a little bit more Brittany blue here at the bottom to anchor the product onto the table or surface that it's sitting on. Shadows seem to do that. They're a little darker as they get towards the object. I'm adding a little bit of value here on the end to show a little detail. You might get a little reflected light on the end of this device just to show the form, and it would be capturing a little bit of light right there. I'm doing a quick fix on the control panel area here. I see that perspective is not quite right, so I'm just going back and fixing that, fixing a little bit of the reflection here at the very top to make it come all the way to the edge like it would. And I'm getting done here. I'm going to add or I'm going to start thinking about adding some notes to my sketch. Before I add notes, I'm just coming back in with a fine tip Sharpie here to just pull out some of the darks and make them a little darker to anchor this product a little bit more, mainly in the areas that would be in shadow. And I'm just adding my name here. I like to add it in as a little detail. It looks kind of neat and adds a little bit of interest. So I'm starting to add some notes, and notes are a great way to make your sketch very design-like. They're also very purposeful in the sense that you're adding information that's super important that you want the user to know about. So let's say you're not there to show your sketch to your client or to your manager or your boss. You want to include some notes so that they can easily be read. You want to make sure the notes are legible so that people can read them and understand what you're going for. So here I've brought the photo or the sketch into Photoshop, and I've cleaned it up. Basically, I've taken away all the construction lines. I've just whited them out or erased them, and I've cleaned up a few things here and there, added a little bit of detail, and it's basically just erasing to clean up the sketch to get what we've got here. Add a little bit of contrast to make it a little bit more punchy, but that's the final sketch. This is something you might just show internally. Probably not a client unless you have a pretty good relationship with that client. It would be a fairly early sketch. If you like the music in this video, head on over to Mike's website, 𝗪𝗏𝗿𝗄. Give him a shout out, let him know that you like it. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks. Rock on.